In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 33 cozy mysteries that are on my personal TBR. Since this is quite a long list, I'm going to whistle through them fairly quickly. I will tell you what kind of subgenre of cozy it is, if it's a crafting or a baking or a paranormal, and if I think it's going to fit any specific squares on the cozy mystery bingo board, then I will try and tell you about those as we go through them too. I haven't read any of these, but they all sound fantastic, so I'm really hoping that I can fit some of them into my reading for the year, and I hope that you might find something you want to try too. If any in particular do appeal to you, if you are interested in picking them up, then let me know that in the comments below, and let me know if you're interested in buddy reading any of them with me. We're going to start with some cooking restaurant themed cozies for that foodie square. The first book is The Big Chili by Buckley. This is the first in the Undercover dish mysteries. In this we have a protagonist whose business involves discreetly delivering meals that her customers can then claim they cook themselves. I've read Buckley before and I really enjoyed that series, so I'm hoping that this is going to pan out the same way. In Live and Let Chai by Bree Baker, we have a protagonist who is returning to her small town to set up an iced tea shop and cafe on the beach. This could fit you for that warm weather prompt or the hard mode, which was specifically set on a beach. Mousse and Murder is the first in the Alaskan diner mysteries by Elizabeth Logan. Here we have a young chef returning to her Alaskan hometown to take over her family's diner. This could get you the squares for alliteration, an author with a pen name, or a cold setting. Cheddar Off Dead by Korina is the first in the cheese shop mysteries, and this follows a cheesemonger, which, I mean cheese, I'm all for it. Personally, I think this one would work really well for the punny title. Then we have two books specifically about jam making. Jellies, Jams and Bodies by Donna, Walo, Clancy. This one would also fit for that square where the love interest isn't a cop, as we have a hero here who is a flower shop owner. The other one is Killer Jam by MacInerney. This is the first book in the Dewberry Farm series, and it would work really well for the square to have a building on the cover. Then we have Curses Boiled Again by Shari Randall. This is the first in a Lobster stack mystery series. You could get the Seaside prompt for this, and personally I think the punny title. One of my personal top priority books is The Rocky Road to Ruin by Meri. This is the first book in her Ice Cream Shop mystery series. This one would fit perfectly for that alliteration prompt, even if you wanted to go for hard mode. This one also has a protagonist who is leaving quite a high profile city job to come and take over a small town family business. Next, I have a couple of books that aren't technically foodie, but they're maybe farm related, and I kind of thought they went together, and it'll segue us through into the next category. Funnily enough, the first two actually have the same title. First we have No Farm, No Foul by Cochran. This is the first in her Farmer's Daughter mystery series, about a farming blogger running her family farm in Michigan. Then we have No Farm, No Foul by Julie Ann Lindsay. This is the first in her Thelma and Louisa mystery series, where we are specifically following two chicken breeders. Both these books could count for prompts about buildings on the cover, animals on the cover, and personally I think the chicken breeders could definitely be an unusual hobby or occupation. Julie Ann Lindsay also writes under the pseudonyms Jacqueline Frost and Bree Barker, so you could definitely count this on that pseudonym prompt too. Then we have An Escape Goat, which is a Zen goat mystery from Jana Rollins. In this one, our protagonist finds out through a DNA test that she has relatives she didn't know about, and she goes to find them and start a goat yoga studio. Buildings, animals, punny titles, weird hobbies. This one probably could hit a lot of squares. From farms, we're now kind of segueing into floral type of cozies. We're going to start with A Whole Lot of Trouble by Heather Weber, the first in her Nina Quinn series. This is about a garden landscaper who has just thrown her cheating cop ex-husband out of the house, is dealing with her son who has a snake on the loose, and then stumbles upon a body. Then we have Natural Thorn Killer by Kate Dyer Seeley. This is the first in her Rose City mysteries. This is another potential pseudonym square, as Kate Dyer Seeley also writes under Ellie Alexander for her Bake Shop mysteries. That series has been on my TBR for literal years, so I'm really keen to pick up something by the author and give her writing a try. In Death in Bloom by Jess Dillon, We are following a protagonist whose dreams of being a Nashville singer have just crashed and burned. So she has returned to her hometown and is setting up a flower shop. Personally, with all of the florals on this one, I would be counting it for a beautiful cover. I think There'll Be Shell to Pay by Molly McRae is the only sequel on this list. This is the second book in her Haunted Shell Shop mysteries, the first of which is Come Shell or High Water. Both of those gonna fit you for that punny title and gonna fit you for the hard mode beach prompt if you don't want to read something with a warm weather setting. Personally, I didn't adore the first book in the series, but Molly McRae's Haunted Yarn Shop mysteries are personally my top cozy mystery series, so I'm willing to give this series another chance. And if you want a book for your recommendations square, definitely try Last Will and Testament, the first book in those Haunted Yarn Shop mysteries. There are a whole ton of craft related mysteries out there and so many different crafts to explore with them, but I hope I found some interesting ones for you. The first is Pleating for Mercy by Melissa Bourbon. Our protagonist leaves her high fashion designer job in Manhattan and goes back to Texas to open up her own dressmaking boutique in her turn of the century farmhouse. Then we have Seems Like Murder by Dorothy Howell, definitely counts as the punny title. This is the first in the Sewing Studio mysteries. Here we have a protagonist who is returning to her hometown, and although she actually isn't a very skilled sewer at the start of the book, she becomes involved in a charity sewing project while she's finding her feet and finding her way about the town. And this one's interesting because usually in craft mysteries the protagonist has a fairly good grasp on their hobby at the very start, and this one could be quite interesting to follow a beginner as they become better and more skilled. Dire Threads by Janet Bolan, which is a Threadville mystery, is specifically following an embroidery shop owner, which personally for me, who's a big fan of cross stitch, this one really appeals. Lots of buildings on the cover for this one, and also this is a pseudonym of Ginger Bolton, who writes the Deputy Donut mysteries, which I'm currently sitting about book 9 on, so you know I enjoy those. Not Before You Enter is interesting because it follows an octogenarian sleuth, so someone a little bit older than our standard protagonist. It also features an assisted living home and a sleuth who is very, very into crochet. This has a black author, so you could count it for your diversity square. Another craft related cozy, but one I would also potentially count as the unusual hobby or interest, is The Mournful Teddy by John J. Lamb. Now this is interesting for two reasons. One, we have a male author, and honestly, how many male cozy authors are out there? But also we have a male protagonist, and again, you don't see that very often. In this we have a retired San Francisco cop and his wife who are moving to a smaller town to focus on their hobby of creating and collecting teddy bears. I don't know if home renovation really counts as a craft, but in my mind it probably should, because there's lots of different craft and artsy skills involved in your renovations. So here I'm going to count If Walls Could Talk by Juliet Blackwell, which is the first haunted home renovation mystery. Then, maybe not quite so much renovation, but to do with homes and real estate, we have Dead as a Door Knocker by Diane Kelly. This is the first in her House Flipper mysteries. In the summary for this one, it sounds like we are going to get at least some of the book from the POV of her cat, Sawdust. So this would be a really good one for that animal companion, animal on the cover, easy mode, hard mode duo. Next, I have a couple of paranormal cozies, and I have already mentioned some on this list. You might have noticed a few had haunted shops or haunted renovations. You can go back and find those if you want, but these are specifically paranormal. First, we have Broomsticks and Board Games by Amy McNulty. Again, this is going to get you that alliteration square if you're looking for it. We follow a witch whose best friends are a werewolf, a ghost and a vampire, and who has to perform one good deed every day or she risks turning into stone. Board games might not be that unusual a hobby in the real world, but it's not something I see turning up in cozies quite as often, so I think you could fit it on that square too. Then there's A Skeleton in the Family by Lee Perry, the first in the Family Skeleton Mysteries. In this we have a protagonist who returns home and her family just so happen to have a skeleton living with them. Like a skeleton that is conscious and is a character in his own right. The skeleton and our protagonist are going to be investigating his own murder. So I think this one would definitely be interesting. Then there's It Takes a Witch by Heather Blake. This is the first in her witchcraft mysteries. We actually follow two sisters who come from a long line of witches and have recently returned home to take up the family business. This one came out in 2012, so it's a bit older, and it could fit for the hard mode 10+ year square on your board. Personally, I really loved Heather Blake's Magic Potion Shop mysteries, and I'm really looking forward to trying this series. Our last category is that cozy mystery staple, books. This is bookshops, writers, librarians, anything to do with the written word. First, we have Murder in the Mystery Suite, a book retreat mystery by Ellery Adams. Ellery Adams is just such a big name in the cozy mystery genres. I think I've read some books from her before, but I honestly couldn't put my finger on it, so I'll be excited to try this series. A book retreat just sounds like the most amazing thing in the world. It's something I personally would love to do, and I think I'll really enjoy this setting. It'll combine those B&B tourism mysteries with a little bit more of a bookish theme. Then we have Lending a Paw by Laurie Cass. This is the first in the Bookmobile Cat mysteries. I love the idea of a mobile bookshop, but this will also, I think, really easily fit that cozy companion square and the animal on the cover. For more bookish cats, we have Curiosity Thrilled the Cat by Sophie Kelly, the first in her Magical Cats mysteries. Again, this one looks like the animals themselves are going to be taking part in the investigation, so it might be a good one for that animal companion square. This one came out in 2011, so again, really good if you're looking for something more than 10 years old. Then we have Chapter and Curse by Elizabeth Penny. This is the first in the Cambridge Bookshop mysteries. Again, you've got your alliteration, but this one also is actually set in England, which I think it's the only one on the list that isn't set in the States. We're following a librarian and her mother who, after getting a mysterious letter from a relative in England, decide to go over and help run the family bookshop. The Uninvited Corpse by Diane Sinnefelder is the first in her food blogger mysteries. This has a protagonist that definitely counts for that protagonist changes their job square. Hope has really been through it before the series even starts. She's newly divorced, she's leaving behind a failed career as a magazine editor and an embarrassing stint on a reality TV show. This one could also probably count as a foodie type of mystery, but I'm quite interested to see how having a food blogger for the protagonist changes things up a bit. Then I have Digging Up Trouble by Kit Crow, the first in the Sweet Fiction Bookshop series. In this, we are heading to the small town of Confection, where everything seems to have a sort of sweet treat theme to it. So you're getting that almost bakery aspect along with the bookshops, and from the summary it sounds like the animal companions in this one are definitely going to play a big part in the story, even if they're not giving us their POV. Murder Past You by Miranda James is the first in the Cat in the Stacks series. This one came out in 2010, definitely hitting that backlist square if you need it. It's got the cat on the cover, and actually again, this one has a male protagonist. Finally, the first in the Mystery Bookshop series, we have The Plot is Murder by V.M. Burns. Again, there's a black author for your diversity square, some animals on the cover, and while this protagonist is running a bookshop, she's also actually writing her own cozy mystery series set in England between the wars. So we're gonna get some kind of writing and writerly theming as well, which I think is really nice. So those are some of the books that I am thinking about putting on my bingo board. Let me know if any of them appeal to you, or if you have any other books that you think would be great recommendations. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.